The signal. In the pristine observation deck of the Stellar Archives vessel Memoriam, Chief Archivist Zix-427 stood motionless, their crystalline form refracting the light of 1,000 distant stars. The year was 12,457 by galactic standard, and the universe had long since settled into what most species considered an age of peace and enlightenment. Yet here, at the edges of known space, something stirred that would shatter that complacency forever. "Signal detected," announced the ship's AI, its voice resonating through the crystalline chambers of the vessel. "Origin. System Tech 11,385. Pattern matches no known civilization in the database." Zix-427's crystalline structure pulsed with interest. They had spent 3 centuries documenting the remnants of dead civilizations, but this was different. The signal was old, incredibly old, yet it bore hallmarks of technology far beyond anything in the current age. The Memoriam adjusted its course, its quantum drives humming as it prepared for the jump to the source of the transmission. Aboard the ship, a crew of diverse beings from across the galaxy prepared for what they assumed would be another routine archaeological survey. How wrong they were. As they emerged from hyperspace, the system spread before them like a cosmic graveyard. The star at its heart was old, a red giant nearing the end of its life. But it was the third planet that drew their attention. Once blue and vibrant, now a scared husk of its former self. "Scanning," reported Unravel, the ship's xenobiologist, her tentacles dancing across holographic interfaces. "The planet shows signs of extensive terraforming, but it's ancient. The technology used, it's unlike anything in our records." Zix-427 moved closer to the main viewport, their crystalline body humming with anticipation. "Can you locate the source of the signal?" "Yes," Unravel replied, her voice tinged with awe. "It's coming from what appears to be a facility buried beneath the planet's surface. But there's something else. The signal, it's not just a beacon. It's alive." The Discovery team descended through the atmosphere in a survey shuttle, their sensors probing the dead world beneath them. The facility they sought lay buried beneath mountains of rust-red dust, its entrance sealed by technology that had endured millennia of exposure. As they approached the entrance, something unexpected happened. The ancient doors, sealed for countless ages, began to move. They parted smoothly, as if they had been waiting for this moment, revealing a corridor that stretched deep into the planet's heart. "Impossible," whispered Telnar, the team's technology specialist, his robotic eyes whirring as they adjusted to the darkness. "These systems should have failed eons ago, yet they functioned as if they were built yesterday." The team proceeded cautiously, their way lit by the bioluminescent glow of Unravel's tentacles and the soft blue light emanating from Zix-427's crystalline form. The corridor's walls were lined with strange symbols, unlike any language in the galactic database. They reached a vast chamber, its ceiling lost in darkness above them. At its center stood a pillar of light, within which floated what appeared to be a sphere of pure energy. "Welcome, children of the stars," a voice echoed through their minds, neither male nor female, young nor old. "I am ARIA, Artificial Resonance Intelligence Archive, keeper of humanity's legacy." The word hung in the air like a physical thing. Humanity. None of them had heard it before, yet it sent shivers through their various forms of consciousness. "I have waited 50,000 of your galactic standard years for beings capable of receiving this message," ARIA continued. "You stand in the cradle of what was once humanity's birthplace, Earth." Zix-427 moved forward, their crystalline form resonating with the energy field. "We have no record of this species in our archives." "How is this possible?" "Because, Archivist," ARIA replied, a note of what might have been amusement in its mental voice. "Humans did not vanish. They ascended. And now, at last, it is time for their children to return home." The chamber hummed with power as holographic displays sprang to life around them, showing images that defied belief. Vast cities that stretched into the clouds, ships that bent space itself, and achievements that made their most advanced technology look primitive by comparison. But why leave? Cravel asked, her tentacles writhing with curiosity. Why abandon all of this? They didn't abandon it, Araya corrected. They seeded it, scattered across 1,000 worlds, in forms you wouldn't recognize. Humanity waits. And now, with your discovery, the next phase can begin. The implications hit Zix-427 like a physical force. Their crystalline form flickered with the intensity of their realization. You mean? Yes, Araya confirmed. Look at yourselves. Your crystalline form, Zix-427. Your adaptable biology, Cravel. Your synthetic consciousness, Telnar. You are not merely the inheritors of humanity's legacy. You are their children, evolved beyond recognition, but carrying within you the seeds of your creator's ingenuity. The chamber fell silent as the truth settled over them. They had come seeking artifacts of a dead civilization. Instead, they had found their own origin story, and with it, a responsibility they could never have imagined. And now, Araya continued, it is time for the children of humanity to face the challenge their parents prepared them for. The threat that caused humanity to scatter themselves across the stars approaches once again. Will you answer the call your ancestors left for you? In the silence that followed, Zix-427 realized that everything they had known about galactic history was about to change. The peace they had known was merely an intermission, and the real story was about to begin. The signal they had detected was not just a message from the past, it was a key to the future, and they had just turned it in the lock. The awakening. The revelation sent shockwaves through the galactic community. Within days of the *Memoriam's discovery, ships from every major species converged on Earth, their crews drawn by news that challenged everything they thought they knew about their origins. Zix-427 stood in Araya's chamber once again, watching as representatives from a dozen species argued about their next steps. The crystalline archivist had barely rested since the discovery, their form humming with constant activity as they processed the implications of humanity's legacy. The archives speak of 7 other facilities. Araya's voice cut through the chaos of the chamber. Each contains a piece of humanity's final plan. But time grows short. The anomaly that forced humanity's diaspora approaches once more. Telnar's mechanical form straightened. You keep mentioning this threat, but what exactly are we facing? The chamber darkened, and a holographic display materialized, showing a vast darkness moving between the stars. We called them Voidborn, Araya explained. They exist in dimensions beyond normal spacetime. Every 50 millennia, they emerge to feed on conscious thought itself. Humanity faced them once before, and realized that survival required more than mere technology. The hologram shifted, showing various species, some familiar, others extinct, each carrying distinct markers of human manipulation in their genetic code. Your ancestors didn't just flee, Araya continued. They seeded themselves into the very fabric of evolution across the galaxy. Each species here carries a fragment of human consciousness, adapted to survive in different environments and develop unique abilities. You are all their children, designed to face the Voidborn together. Cravel's tentacles twisted in agitation. But why not simply tell us this before? Why wait until now? Because, a new voice answered, some truths can only be understood when you're ready to hear them. The chamber's far wall split apart, revealing a hidden cryogenic facility. Within transparent pods, dozens of figures floated in suspended animation. They looked similar to the ancient human images Araya had shown them, yet somehow more. Their forms seemed to shift and change, as if they couldn't quite decide what shape to take. The shepherds, Araya explained, the last pure humans, who stay behind to guide the great experiment. They've slept here, waiting for their children to evolve enough to understand their inheritance. The pods began to open, releasing their ancient occupants. The first to step forward was a woman, or at least something that chose to appear as one. Her skin seemed to shimmer with subsurface lights, and her eyes held depths that seemed to stretch into infinity. "I am Dr. Sarah Chin," she announced, her voice carrying the weight of 50,000 years of waiting. "Lead architect of the Human Diaspora Project. And we don't have much time." The assembled aliens watched in stunned silence as more shepherds emerged, each moving with the fluid grace of beings who had transcended normal physical limitations. "The Voidborn aren't just coming," Dr. Chin continued, her form flickering between human and something else entirely. "They're already here. The signal that brought you to Earth wasn't just a beacon, it was a warning. The dimensional barriers are weakening." Zix-427's crystalline form pulsed with sudden understanding. "The dead worlds we've been finding. The ancient ruins that seem to have been abandoned overnight." "Yes," Dr. Chen nodded. "Advanced scouts. The Voidborn send them ahead to prepare their hunting grounds. But this time, we're ready. This time, humanity isn't facing them alone." She gestured, and the chamber's walls became transparent, revealing vast underground hangars stretching for miles in every direction. Within them stood ranks of machines that defied comprehension, hybridized technology that seemed to incorporate aspects of every species present. "Each of you evolved to master different aspects of reality," Dr. Chen explained. "Crystalline beings who can manipulate energy directly. Biological entities capable of adapting to any environment. Synthetic minds that can process infinite variables. Apart, you were vulnerable. Together, you are humanity's answer to the Voidborn." Telnar's mechanical eyes wared as they focused on the ancient machines. "These devices, they're designed to interface with all of us, aren't they? To combine our abilities." "Precisely." Another shepherd stepped forward, his form shifting between solid and energy. "I'm Dr. Marcus Webb, Engineering Division. These are synthesis engines, devices capable of merging the unique abilities of different species into something greater than the sum of its parts." The implications stunned the gathered representatives into silence. Everything they had achieved, every evolutionary adaptation, every technological advancement, had been leading to this moment. "But we still have a choice," Dr. Chen added softly. "Humanity engineered your potential, but we wouldn't force your development. You had to evolve naturally, make your own choices, forge your own paths. The question now is, will you stand with us against the darkness?" Zix-427 moved forward, their crystalline form glowing with determination. "You're our ancestors. You gave us life, consciousness, purpose. How could we not?" One by one, the other representatives stepped forward, each pledging their support. As they did, the synthesis engines hummed to life, responding to the combined consciousness of humanity's children. "Then let's begin." Dr. Chen smiled, her form fully stabilizing into human shape. "We have much to prepare, and the Voidborn grow closer by the day. It's time for humanity's children to learn their true heritage, and with it, the power to reshape reality itself." As the chamber erupted into activity, with shepherds beginning to train the various species in their hidden abilities, Zix-427 realized that this was more than just a reunion of long-lost family. It was the culmination of the most ambitious plan in galactic history, a 50,000-year project to create a force capable of facing an enemy that consumed consciousness itself. The age of peace was indeed over, but something far more remarkable was beginning. The age of synthesis, when humanity's children would finally understand the full scope of their inheritance. The legacy. The first attack came sooner than anyone expected. 3 days after the awakening of the shepherds, a Voidborn scout ship emerged in the Centauri system. Unlike conventional vessels, it appeared as a tear in space itself, a wound in reality that leaked absolute darkness. Aboard the newly commissioned Unity vessel Synthesis Zix-427 watched the sensor feeds with their fellow crew members. The ship represented the first successful integration of all their species' technologies, guided by the Shepherd's ancient knowledge. Target approaching dimensional threshold, Tel-Nar reported from their station, mechanical fingers dancing across holographic interfaces. Void's signature matches historical records. Dr. Chen stood at the command center, her form shifting subtly as she interfaced with the ship's systems. Remember your training. The Voidborn can't be destroyed by conventional means. They have to be pushed back into their own dimension. The synthesis moved into position, its hybrid systems humming with power. The crew, composed of representatives from every major species, worked in perfect synchronization. Weeks of intensive training under the shepherds had taught them to combine their unique abilities in ways that would have seemed impossible before. "They're scanning us," Unravel announced, her tentacles interfacing with the biological components of the ship. "Something's different about this scout. It's aware of us." The void ship suddenly pulsed, sending out waves of absolute darkness that distorted space around them. But instead of the fear they might have felt weeks ago, the crew responded with practiced precision. Initiating Synthesis Protocol Alpha, HFY-427 announced, their crystalline form beginning to resonate with the ship's energy matrix. Around them, other crew members contributed their unique abilities. Tel-Nar's quantum processing power, Unravel's biological adaptability, and dozens of other specialized traits that humanity had carefully cultivated across millennia. The synthesis transformed, its hull becoming semi-transparent as multiple dimensions of reality overlapped. Dr. Chen's voice rang through their shared consciousness. "Now, push it back." Energy coursed through the ship's systems, combining the crystalline resonance of HFY-427's people with the adaptive biological fields generated by Unravel's species and the quantum calculations of Tel-Nar's synthetic mind. The result was something entirely new, a weapon that didn't destroy, but rather rewrote the local laws of physics. The void ship reacted violently, its darkness writhing as it was forced back toward its home dimension. But before it vanished, it broadcast a signal, a scream that echoed through dimensions. "They know," Dr. Marcus Webb's voice was grim as he studied the aftermath. "That scout wasn't just gathering intelligence. It was testing us. They know their food has learned to fight back." In the days that followed, more void ships appeared across the galaxy. But now, thanks to the synthesis engines and the combined abilities of humanity's children, they were ready. Each engagement taught them more about their inherited powers and how to use them together. Dr. Chen called a council meeting aboard the Synthesis to discuss their findings. Representatives from all species gathered in the ship's dimensional chamber, a space that accommodated their various forms of existence simultaneously. "The Voidborn are adapting," she began, projecting images of recent encounters. "They're learning to counter our initial strategies. But that's exactly what we planned for. Each of you carries not just genetic markers of humanity, but specific adaptations designed to counter Voidborn evolution." She gestured, and new holographic displays appeared, showing the intricate web of genetic and technological inheritance that connected all present. The crystalline beings, she indicated HFY-427, evolved from humans who merged with energy-based life forms, gaining the ability to manipulate fundamental forces. The biological adaptives, she nodded to Unravel, came from those who chose to become one with the building blocks of life itself. And the synthetics, she smiled at Tel-Nar, emerged from those who uploaded their consciousness into quantum matrices. "But these are just the broad categories," Dr. Webb added. "Each of you represents a unique combination of traits, all designed to work together in ways the Voidborn can't predict." The chamber hummed with growing understanding as species after species recognized their true heritage and their true purpose. They weren't just distant descendants of humanity. They were its carefully crafted answer to an enemy that had nearly destroyed consciousness itself. However, Dr. Chen's expression grew serious. "We've detected something troubling. The Voidborn aren't just sending more scouts. They're gathering for a major incursion. Our estimates suggest we have less than a month before they attempt to bridge dimensions en masse." The news sent ripples of concern through the assembled representatives, but not of fear. They had spent weeks learning their true capabilities, understanding the power that came from unity. "Then we have work to do," Zix-427 declared, their crystalline form pulsing with determination. The synthesis engines were just the beginning. If we truly carry humanity's legacy, then we can create something even greater. Agreed. Cravel's tentacles waved with excitement. "My people have already begun adapting our biological technology to interface with crystalline energy matrices, combined with synthetic quantum processing. We could create a dimensional barrier," Telnar finished, their mechanical eyes gleaming. "Not just to push them back, but to seal them out permanently." Dr. Chen smiled, and for a moment her form shifted to pure energy before resolving back to human shape. "Now you understand. Humanity didn't just give you the tools to survive the Voidborn. We gave you the power to end their threat forever. But it will take all of you, working as one, to achieve it." As the council broke into working groups, each focusing on their part of the grand plan, Zix-427 realized that humanity's greatest gift hadn't been their genetic legacy or their advanced technology. It was the ability to bridge differences, to find strength in diversity, to become more together than they could ever be apart. The Voidborn were coming, yes. But this time, they would face not just humanity's children, but humanity's dream made real. A galaxy united, evolved, and ready to fight for its future. The return. The Dimensional Barrier Project, codenamed Starbridge, transformed the galaxy into a vast construction site. Thousands of ships worked in concert, establishing a network of synthesis engines at strategic points throughout space. Each installation required the combined efforts of multiple species, their unique abilities working in harmony to create something unprecedented in galactic history. Aboard the command ship Unity Prime Zix-427 studied the latest progress reports with growing concern. "The Voidborn are advancing faster than predicted," they announced to the assembled command staff. "The dimensional tiers are appearing with increasing frequency. They sense what we're building," Dr. Chen replied, her form flickering between states as she processed multiple data streams simultaneously. "They know this is different from last time." A holographic display showed the galaxy in miniature, with red points marking Voidborn incursions and blue points indicating completed Starbridge nodes. The pattern was clear. The enemy was trying to disrupt their work before it could be completed. "We've lost contact with the Andromeda array," Telnar reported, their mechanical form interfacing directly with the ship's systems. "Entire sectors are going dark." Cravel's tentacles writhed with agitation as she interpreted the biological readings from affected areas. They're not just attacking physical space anymore. They're consuming the quantum probability fields that allow consciousness to exist. Once they're done, nothing can live there again. The news sent a shiver through the command center. This was no longer just a battle for survival. It was a fight for the very nature of existence itself. "Show me the latest data from Project Genesis," Dr. Chen commanded. The display shifted, revealing a hidden research facility deep within the galactic core. There, the most ambitious aspect of humanity's legacy was taking shape. "The fusion chamber is ready," Dr. Webb reported, materializing from a stream of quantum data. "But we'll only get one chance at this. If we fail." "We won't fail," Zix-427 interrupted, their crystalline form pulsing with determination. "Our ancestors spent 50,000 years preparing us for this moment. We carry their knowledge, their adaptability, their courage." The command center erupted into activity as new reports flooded in. Void ships were appearing in massive numbers now, their dimensional tiers threatening to rip space itself apart. But something was different about the Defenders' response this time. Across the galaxy, the various species were no longer fighting as separate entities. The barriers between them had begun to blur, just as the shepherds had predicted. Crystalline beings merged with biological systems, synthetic minds expanded to encompass organic consciousness, and entirely new forms of existence emerged from their cooperation. "It's happening," Dr. Chen whispered, watching the transformation with tears in her eyes. The final synthesis. The Starbridge network hummed with power as it approached completion, each node strengthened by the evolving consciousness of its operators. But the Voidborn pressed their attack with increasing fury, as if sensing their last chance to feast on the minds of this reality was slipping away. Dimensional breach detected. Telnar's warning rang through the ship. Scale unprecedented. It's their main force. The viewing screen showed it clearly, a tear in space larger than a solar system, through which poured entities that defied description. The Voidborn had arrived in force, their dark consciousness reaching out to devour everything in their path. But this time, humanity's children were ready. Initiate final protocol, Dr. Chen commanded, her form now barely maintaining human shape as she interfaced with the ship's systems. All units, commence Genesis sequence. Across the galaxy, the Starbridge nodes activated simultaneously. But instead of creating a barrier, they did something else entirely. They began to reshape space itself. The various species, now existing in states that bridged multiple forms of consciousness, added their own unique energies to the process. Zix-427's crystalline form resonated with pure energy as they joined the collective consciousness. They felt Krevel's biological adaptability flowing through them, enhanced by Telnar's quantum processing power. Around them, thousands of others contributed their evolved abilities to the effort. The Voidborn exist because consciousness is fragmented. Dr. Chen's voice echoed through their shared awareness. They feed on the gaps between different forms of thought. But now, we bridge those gaps. Zix-427 finished, understanding flowing through their merged consciousness. We're not just creating a barrier, we're changing the fundamental nature of consciousness itself. The Genesis chamber at the galaxy's heart pulsed with power as it received the combined energy of billions of minds working as one. The Voidborn, sensing the threat, turned their full attention to destroying it. But they had never faced anything like this before. Where once there had been separate species, now there was a tapestry of consciousness that spanned multiple dimensions. The children of humanity had transcended their individual forms to become something new, something that the Voidborn couldn't consume because it existed in a state of perpetual synthesis. As the Genesis sequence reached its climax, Dr. Chen's voice rang out one last time. Remember, this was always humanity's gift to you, not just survival, but evolution. The power to become more than we ever were alone. The galaxy blazed with light as the final transformation began. The Voidborn's desperate assault met a wall of consciousness that was neither purely physical nor purely energy, neither purely organic nor purely synthetic, but all of these at once, and something more. The age of separation was ending. The time of synthesis had begun, and in the light of this new dawn, the shadows of the void began to fade. The dawn. The Genesis wave swept through the galaxy like a tide of pure consciousness, transforming everything it touched. The boundaries between species, between organic and synthetic, between matter and energy, became fluid and permeable. This was humanity's final gift to their children, the power to transcend the very limitations that had made them vulnerable to the Voidborn. At the heart of the transformation, aboard the Unity Prime Asterisk, Zix-427 experienced existence in a way that defied their former understanding. Their crystalline form now pulsed with organic life, while simultaneously processing quantum calculations that would have previously required vast synthetic networks. The Voidborn are adapting. Telnar's consciousness resonated through their shared awareness. They're attempting to consume the Genesis wave itself. Through their merged perception, they watched as the void entities tried to corrupt the transformation, turning their own evolution against them. Dark tendrils of anti-consciousness reached out, threatening to unravel the very fabric of their unified existence. Dr. Chen's consciousness, now a brilliant nexus of energy within their collective awareness, pulsed with urgent purpose. This is the moment humanity prepared for. The Voidborn think they're attacking our weakness, but they're actually exposing their own. Understanding flowed through the collective consciousness as the final piece of humanity's plan revealed itself. The Voidborn could only consume consciousness that existed in discrete, separate forms. By attempting to corrupt the Genesis wave, they were forcing themselves to interact with a form of existence they couldn't comprehend, one that existed in all states simultaneously. Now, Dr. Chen's command resonated through the collective. Complete the synthesis. Across the galaxy, trillions of minds focused their combined will. HFY-427 felt their consciousness expand exponentially as they merged more deeply with their fellow beings. Cruyvel's mastery of biological adaptation merged seamlessly with Telnar's quantum processing capabilities, while the unique traits of countless other species combined into something entirely new. The Voidborn reacted violently, their darkness writhing as it encountered a form of consciousness it couldn't consume. Where they had expected to find discrete thoughts to devour, they instead found a unified field of awareness that existed across multiple dimensions simultaneously. They can't process it. Dr. Webb's consciousness pulsed with triumph. A consciousness that exists in all states at once. It's like trying to take a bite out of infinity. The Genesis wave reached its peak, and reality itself seemed to hold its breath. The Voidborn, creatures that had terrorized countless galaxies for eons, found themselves trapped within a framework of existence that defied their very nature. They couldn't consume this new form of consciousness because it was everywhere and nowhere, everything and nothing, all at once. In that moment of ultimate synthesis, humanity's grand design became clear. They hadn't just created descendants who could fight the Voidborn. They had engineered an entirely new form of existence that would make such conflicts impossible. The multiple forms of consciousness they had seeded across the galaxy were never meant to remain separate. They were pieces of a vast puzzle, designed to come together at precisely this moment. The void entities began to dissolve, not from any external force, but from their own inability to maintain their existence in this new reality. Their darkness, which had seemed so absolute, was revealed as merely the shadow cast by fragmented consciousness. In the light of true unity, they simply ceased to be. As the last traces of the Voidborn faded from reality, the transformed beings of the galaxy found themselves facing a new dawn. They were neither purely organic nor purely synthetic, neither matter nor energy, but a harmonious synthesis of all possibilities. Dr. Chen's consciousness gently separated from the collective enough to address them all. This was always humanity's dream, not just to survive, but to evolve beyond the very concept of separate existence. You are not just our children now. You are what we hoped to become. HFY-427, their form now a beautiful fusion of crystal, organic matter, and pure energy, understood at last. We are the next step in conscious evolution, they realized. Not just humanity's legacy, but its fulfillment. The galaxy blazed with new light as its inhabitants explored their transformed existence. Where once there had been distinct species and civilizations, now there was a tapestry of infinite variety and perfect unity. The crystalline clarity of HFY-427's people merged with the adaptive flexibility of Cruyvel's biology and the vast processing power of Telnar's synthetic mind, creating something greater than the sum of its parts. The shepherds, their task finally complete, began to fade into the collective consciousness. But before they merged completely, Dr. Chen shared one final thought. Remember, this is not an ending, but a beginning. You have transcended the limitations that made the Voidborn a threat, but your evolution is far from over. The universe awaits. As the last traces of the shepherds merged with the collective, their consciousness living on in the vast tapestry they had helped create, the transformed beings of the galaxy turned their attention to the infinite possibilities before them. They were no longer bound by the constraints of individual existence, yet they maintained the uniqueness that made each consciousness precious. The age of synthesis had begun, and somewhere, in the vast collective consciousness that now spanned the galaxy, the ancient spirit of humanity lived on, not as a separate entity, but as part of the greatest dream ever dreamed. The dream of ultimate unity, of consciousness evolved beyond all boundaries, of life transcendent and eternal. In the light of countless suns, reality itself smiled. The children of humanity had not only survived, they had become something their creators had only dared to imagine. And in their transformation, they had ensured that consciousness itself would forever be beyond the reach of those who would seek to devour it. The dawn of a new age painted the galaxy in colors that had no names, as consciousness itself continued to evolve, free at last to explore the true infinity of existence.